So with that, Chris, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Raul. So we do have 3 candidates today, and they're going to get a chance in a moment to introduce themselves. And so I've already asked how they'd like to be addressed. And so Ray, Nick, and Lou, we will be going through today in a forum format. So this is not a debate. So as we present questions, I'm going to ask that you address your answers to the viewing audience or myself as the moderator, and that we don't address fellow candidates on the panel. For opening statements, you will have 3 minutes, and I will be keeping a time. For closing statements, you will have 2 minutes, and I'll let you know when those are going to begin. For each question, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. We will not have rebuttals, again, as this is not a debate, so you will just have 2 minutes for that question. We will alternate through candidates for each, and so everyone will have opportunities to go first, second, and third throughout the forum. So we're going to start here in alphabetical order, and so we're going to have Lou open us up this morning. Again, Lou, you have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, and the Chamber for hosting this event. I was moved to the Phoenix area by my company about 14 years ago and decided to settle on Surprise for our living quarters. We built a home here in District 1 about 9 years ago, so we've been here for quite some time and seen some ups and downs through the 2008 cycle and all. I am a systems optimization consultant with a major firm here in Phoenix. Work full-time in that position at this point. I have 1 son, 1 daughter, and 4 grandsons. And the oldest grandson now is completing his first year of college. So proud of those guys as well. I believe that, we've got several issues here that in District 1 that need to be addressed. And I'm sure we'll cover those as we go along here. And all. So I'll conclude with that for now.
Thank you, Lou. We will have Nick go next. Nick, you have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. First, I just want to thank the Chamber for hosting this forum and giving us all an opportunity to share our vision with the residents of Surprise. I do have to give a special shout out to my grandparents. They're actually residents of District 1 and they're watching this live. So I just got to say hi to them. They're watching their favorite grandchild. Just don't tell my other cousins. This is the city that helped raise me. My family put down roots here almost 20 plus years ago. Multiple generations of my family call Surprise home. This is the city where I met my wife. It is the city where the schools here educated me. And most importantly, this is the community who wrapped their arms around me and gave me my first opportunity to lead as a member of the Youth Council and later as the chairman of the Youth Council. I am proud to say that I come from a family of public servants. My dad and my grandparents are proud veterans of our armed forces. My mom's in law enforcement, and I've continued that tradition of service in our family. I'm a firefighter paramedic in one of the busiest departments in the Valley, and I'm a proud husband of a beautiful and intelligent pediatric ICU nurse. I'm excited for the opportunity to share my vision with you all and excited for the opportunity to earn your vote in August. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And Ray, 3 minutes for an opening statement.
How you doing? Hey, first of all, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce again for putting on this event. Thank you, Chris, for moderating it. Yeah, my name is Raymond E. Grimm. I'm married to my wife, Rebecca, for 16 years. I moved to Surprise in 1995 when we had about 10,000 residents. Now, my wife and I, between us, we have 5 kids, 2 granddaughters. We have 1 on the way. And we also host foreign exchange students. We've hosted 3 so far. Our 4th one will be here this year. When I first moved to Surprise, I went into Billy Parker's office at the Parks and Rec department, and he asked me, I was signing my son up for T-ball, and he asked me to coach because he didn't have enough coaches. So that started off my public service here in Surprise. In fact, one of my main campaign slogans is proven leadership. And some of the areas that I have served the city of Surprise with my leadership, is I was on the Parks and Rec Committee for the last 3 years. I resigned to run for City Council. I'm a proud member of Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce since 2002. I was the chairperson for the Government Affairs Committee with the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce for 3 years. I was on the committee for 6 years. 2017, I was awarded Member of the Year for the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce, which at the time had about 500 members or so. I'm a business owner here in Surprise for 21 years. My insurance agency is on El Mirage and Bell Road. I started a business networking group, and we have over 60 businesses in that. A friend of mine, a couple of the business owners, we started a business networking event that we get like 100 people or so to those events. I've hosted and led a Christmas drive for Dylan's Christmas. 275 kids that would not have gotten Christmas got a party and Christmas gifts, and we did that this last year. I organized National Day of Prayer here in Surprise, the first Thursday in May of the year. Also organized Mayor's Breakfast with the pastors, where we brought the pastors of Surprise together and local elected officials, so we get them all together. We do that at the beginning of the year. I was a manager at Home Depot for about 14 years before I opened my agency. I've been a pastor here in Surprise. I was on a servant council board for Christ Church Assemblies of God. I've been a youth coach here in Surprise for about 20 years in basketball, baseball, kickball, and soccer. And I went through the city academy, HOA academy. So I spent a lot of time volunteering and leading different things here in Surprise. And so I decided to make the next step and run for city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Now, candidates, as we get into the questions again, you'll have 2 minutes for responses. You're welcome to take a few seconds, especially for when you're the first step for each question, again, which we'll rotate through to consider your response. We'll give you a few seconds lag time there. I don't have a visual signal to be able to give you. So if you do get to the 10-second mark, I will unmute myself and just give you 10 seconds. You don't have to stop talking when I say that. But that will be your warning there for the time. So we're going to stay here with you, Ray, since you were last for your opening statement. And so we want to continue to talk just about your background. So for each candidate, we're going to ask, what qualifies for you to serve on city council, and how has your background prepared you for the position? And so, Ray, you'll have 2 minutes to answer.
Okay. Well, I guess I kind of went through the whole background, in my opening statement, Parks and Rec. One thing I really learned being on the Parks and Rec committee is listening to the constituents, listening to the people. We've had multiple people come and address the Parks and Rec board on some issues. There was one gentleman that came and he offered a solution for people in wheelchairs, having a wheelchair swing for kids that are in wheelchairs. And so I instructed city staff at that point, hey, let's review that and see if that's something we could do for our city. Unfortunately, we weren't. Something else on that committee that we looked at was the hours of the library. When I first got on the committee, the hours of the library in the original town site library was only open 3 days a week. And I looked at that and I said, those kids there are the kids that need that library open every single day. And so I said, I'm gonna make it a priority to get that open 6 days a week. And so I talked with Mayor, I talked with Ken Remley, Councilman Ken Remley, who's over that district. And because he's over that district, I talked to him directly, and within a couple months, we were able to get that library opened 6 days a week. So those are some things that we worked on. Another issue that came forward was there were some issues with the dog parks. And so I ended up going out and investigating myself. I instructed staff to address those issues, bring those back to our committee. And I stayed on top of that for like 8 or 9 months until those issues were resolved at the dog parks. And so I believe that leadership with bringing people together, National Day of Prayer, Mayor's Breakfast with the Pastor, those events there, I was able to do that because I've had relationships with our local elected officials at the state level, at the federal level. And I believe that those relationships will help us dealing with some of the issues that we have here in Surprise, to be able to, I guess, be able to bring money to our city when we need it. Was that ding, that 2-minute ding?
That was not a 2-minute ding. I'm sorry, that was not me. I will ask if you're not responding, the other panelists, if you're able, please just mute yourselves so we don't have any errant background noise. I'm not sure where the ding came from, Ray.
Okay.
All right, we are going to go to Nick. Same question, Nick. Your background, how has it prepared you for the position, and what qualifies you to serve on Surprise City Council?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. That's such a great question. And it's one that, when I'm out on, knocking on doors in the neighborhood, I get it all the time, is what qualifies you? And I think the core of city politics and what our founding fathers envisioned for our government is that we're filled with public servants. And I've been a lifelong public servant for my entire life. Like I said before, I grew up around public servants, people that dedicated their lives not only to service in their community, but service to their country. So that core value of service has been instilled in me in a very young age. This community gave me my first opportunity to be involved and to serve. I quickly became involved in our community here in Surprise, eventually becoming chairman of the youth council. And I continued that service no matter where I went. Most recently, I'm a firefighter paramedic in one of the most busiest departments in the Valley. And the core principles of that is we don't run away from problems, we run towards them. And that career has prepared me to take on those complex challenges. And let's be honest, we all know that our district is facing challenges like we've never seen before. And these didn't happen overnight. Whether for me, solving problems, whether it's running in a burning building to save someone's loved one that could possibly be trapped, or restarting somebody's heart, the commitment to solving problems, facing them head on, is something that would absolutely prepare me as a role in the city council. Now, I understand that responding to emergency medical calls or fire emergencies doesn't exactly translate to being a councilman, but both jobs value commitment to one's community and the ability to solve the complex problem solving our communities. And so I think I have that strong foundation. We need a new, fresh perspective on the council. Like I said before, these problems didn't happen overnight. Our infrastructure is taxed beyond measure. Our roads, people, I talk to them at the door, they don't even feel safe to travel on these roads anymore. We need someone that's used to solving problems, not
10 seconds.
not someone that's going to kick the can down the road until it's convenient for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And Lou, final response on this question. How's your background prepared you to serve on council, and what qualifies you for the position?
Thank you, Chris. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force and served overseas. I have worked in industry in very complex situations in medical devices, avionics, and electronics, to name a few. Have equipment flying on Air Force One, for example. When I was in the Air Force, I served in law enforcement duties, so I'm familiar with that role as well. I think that on council, we need to look at things from a business perspective, business-like perspective. And every day I'm solving problems and issues with our company to make it more efficient and to provide the services that the country needs. I agree with Nick from the standpoint that we need roads and we need to solve our transportation problems. I think our engineering, my engineering background provides a good forum for that. And also in the current role that I have in terms of solving problems with companies, involving others, and reaching a good solution for that.
All right, thank you very much. So for our next question, Nick, we're going to have you go first. So if elected, what are your top 3 priorities during your term?
So obviously, being a firefighter paramedic, I have that unique perspective of, public safety isn't some political talking point to me. It's something that I believe in so much that I'm willing to risk my life for it. So public safety is obviously going to be my top priority. The people in this community deserve to have a fully equipped, fully staffed, and fully trained fire engine, ambulance, or police car showing up to their emergency. I know how important this is because I've been on both ends when those sirens are coming off in a distance. And I've also been on the other side of the end where when we are fully equipped, we are fully staffed and fully trained, and we're proactively positioned to be able to keep our response times low, it makes a difference. And we're talking about people's lives. My family lives in this community and they deserve to live in a community that's safe for everybody. The second thing, and I mentioned it before, is our infrastructure is taxed beyond measure. We need to invest in proactive, not reactive policies in terms of growth. I can't tell you how many times I go to the door and I hear people and they're just frustrated. They're frustrated at the rubber stamp that's been placed on development. We need to bring these developers in and make sure that we are community partners. We need to expand our roads. Right now we're having scallop roads. You've seen it. You've all stuck in traffic. 163rd Avenue and Grand is a major problem. We're seeing more rooftops going up. And that's a direct result of reactive type of leadership. We can't have another 4 years of stagnant leadership. We need a fresh new perspective on the council to address those issues. And lastly is economic development. I want Surprise to be an economic engine for the West Valley, and we can do that. Bring high paying jobs so our citizens can not only live here, but they can work here and live comfortably. All of these issues are important. They need to be addressed yesterday, and I'm the one that can do it. I'm no stranger to solving these complex problems. I do it every time I'm on a fire truck, and I'm going to do it up on the dais as your city councilman. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And Lou,
Yes.
same question. If elected, what will your top 3 priorities be?
Well, my top 3 priorities, responsible growth and development. We need to make sure that as development occurs, we have the proper infrastructure and support necessary to support that development when it goes in. I want to represent the interests of both business and residents. Without businesses, we don't have a growing community that can provide high-paying jobs and services that the residents need. Also, a strong public safety posture. As I mentioned, I was in law enforcement in the Air Force, served 4 years doing that. Unfortunately, when I got out, it was the end of the Vietnam conflict and there were 6,000 people for one job. So I went into private industry at that point. But I do support public safety, and that's the fire, the police, and the paramedics in particular for that. I understand how important it is to have quick response times and fully equipped personnel when they arrive on the scene of an emergency.
Thank you, Lou.
Mhm.
And Ray, if elected, your top 3 priorities during your term.
Top 3 priorities. First, of course, is going to be roads. Second is parks. Third is public safety. Those are my top 3. And it's always easy to highlight the priorities and what's the thing. The answer, to get the issues taken care of, we have to have solutions. And so our road issues comes down to getting the funding that we need into our community to get those areas fixed. So 163rd Avenue and Grand, there are some plans that are kind of in place, but what we need to do is get funding to it. Happy Valley, that being expanded, we need to get funding to that. And I've built the relationships with our state officials, our federal officials, to where when I make the phone call and say, hey, we have these issues with these roads right here, we need to get the funding, I have the relationships with them to say, we need those funding. So I've developed those relationships. When it comes to parks is, of course, I was on the Parks and Rec Board. We are behind with the amount of citizens that we have in our city. We are behind in the amount of parks and amenities that we have. Right now, we have teams going out of city to practice because we don't have enough parks in our city. So to address that issue, we need to get our parks up. We need to partner with our schools so we can use their facilities after hours until we can get the parks up to speed. Then, of course, third, public safety. Public safety always needs to be a top priority. Right now, the fire department is an ISO rated #1, which is in the top 1% rating of all fire departments in the country. So we have a good rated fire department. And what that means to us as citizens is it gives us cheaper homeowners insurance. But the most important thing is that when emergency happens, that they have the equipment and the training to get to us as citizens when we need them. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou, we're going to go back to you as the first to respond to this question. So as a member of the city council, you'll have a hand in how businesses are regulated in the city of Surprise, both how easy or difficult it is to start a business and to run a business. How will you improve the regulatory environment for businesses in Surprise?
Thank you, Chris. I operated a small business in another state and realized how difficult it can be to both start and to maintain running a business, particularly a small business. The regulatory requirements in that other state were just immense. And I'll be on the lookout for what we can do to ease the entry and ease the burden of businesses that want to start up and the businesses that come into play. Now, at the same time, the city has a responsibility to provide some guidance, I'll call it, in terms of what businesses need to come into the community. I'm sure that next to a residential area, a chemical refinery plant probably is not appropriate, right? But we should make sure that we have businesses that are appropriate for the community and have enough of them to support the community and the population growth that we're experiencing. So I'll be looking for anything that is regulatory in nature that we can do to improve and ease the business process.
Thank you, Lou. Ray, same question. How will you improve the regulatory environment for businesses in Surprise?
Well, of course, myself being a business owner in Surprise since 2001, this is something that's, of course, near and dear to my heart. Now, some of the things that the city has done pretty good with businesses as far as staying out of their way. Some areas we can improve on is getting permits and things like that quicker to the business owners. So that's an area that I want to work on. Some of my experience in working with city council and with the city, when I was the chairperson for the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce, chairperson for the Government Affairs Committee, we worked on the sign ordinance. The city was redoing the sign ordinance, and we sat down with the city and we gave our suggestions, and we worked hand in hand bringing the sign ordinance that is now adopted by our city. So I've worked in that arena to make sure, and the idea that we wanted to get behind the sign ordinance was we didn't want something that was cluttered, because at that time we had R.H. Johnson and Bell Road was filled with just all kinds of crazy signs, and it was clutter. So we want to clean that up, but we also want to make it cost effective so business owners can have a good sign. And so we worked with them. Another area that we worked with the city was an alarm ordinance. So the city was looking at bringing in a new alarm ordinance because the police were responding to too many false alarms. And the original idea, they were going to set up a system to where they find repeat offenders of false alarms. In order to pay for that, they're going to charge a fee to business owners, to residents. And we researched it, we got with the city, we changed their idea. And so now we have the verified response ordinance. And after that was implemented, it cut down responses for false alarms. So that freed up our police officers to be able to take care of the needs of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nick, final response, how will you help to improve the regulatory environment for businesses in the city of Surprise?
So when I think of this question, the first thing that comes up to me, and I can't help but think of all the people I've encountered, whether it's on their doorstep or in their living room, is that's the problem with what's going on right now, is people feel like you have these people running for office or these elected officials that are trying to tell them it's my way or the highway. But really, we need to listen to what our small business owners are saying. I just encountered someone the other day that told me that they have a business, a coffee shop that they love going to, and the business owner at the coffee shop was so frustrated at the minute details that they had to go through, all the hoops they had to go through just to get something simple as a sign up. We have to make sure that we elevate the voices of our small business community, see how we can be better. We need to remove regulations, but also make sure we're maintaining a quality business environment for our city. We want businesses to be able to come here. We want them to feel like they're supported by the city. But most importantly, we want to make sure that they know they're a partner with us in the community. because I can tell you, growing up in Surprise my entire life as a high schooler, now coming back here as an adult, the problem is we want good businesses for people to be able to stay in Surprise rather than going out of Surprise, spending their money elsewhere in other cities because there's no options. And that's a good way of us being able to prevent that, is working in a partnership with these small business owners, making sure they know that they have a voice and that they're supported. And I want to go back to another thing. This all centers around public safety as well. We want to make sure that it's a safe community where people feel comfortable not only to shop here and utilize the amazing businesses. I know we're going to have a great business community that's going to continue to grow as the years go on, but they have to be able to, one, the businesses need to feel safe being here, and two, the people need to feel like our city's safe enough to support them when they enjoy our entertainment options. And that's why I'm so proud to be endorsed by our professional firefighters of Arizona and our Arizona Police Association, because they believe in my vision for public safety. A safer community benefits everything around us. It benefits the citizens, it benefits the businesses, and it benefits all those who come to visit our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. All right, Ray, we're going to come to you first for this question. So in terms of economic development, what areas of the city, if any, do you think should be given extra attention, and how will you help facilitate developing these areas?
Well, the number one area we need for extra attention is going to be our city center. The center, the centerpiece of our city next to the stadium. And what does that look like? You know, what I would like to see in that area is for us to do three things. First thing I would like to see is do a river walk type of situation down there, where we put in a river, we can bring in some of the reclaimed water to fill that up. And then that would give us some restaurants and dining and that stuff can go on either side of that to be kind of a centerpiece of our city. So that'd be number one, what I like to see. Number two, in that area, I would like to attract a business center to where corporate headquarters could come. I think we could attract 3 or 4 corporate headquarters to put their headquarters in our city center area. That'd be a nice attraction. And the third thing would be a business, I call it a business incubator or a restaurant incubator, to where you have an area that's close to the stadium that is low rent for young entrepreneurs for restaurants. And it could be a low rent area. They can come in, set up their restaurant, and then they can serve. It'd be like a food court type of setup, and people can come and order their food and sit down and eat. And then over time, those restaurants that attract a crowd can end up being the restaurants that end up filling up our city center area. And then we can also put in a little amphitheater in that area to where we can have local artists, local bands, local things like that, to where it can bring the community together. It would fit really nice next to the stadium, of course, for spring training, but also when we have all these small tournaments that come into town, baseball tournaments come into town, that'd be a great gathering place for those parents and those teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Nick, same question. Specific areas of the city that you feel should get attention for economic development, and how would you address those areas?
Okay, so obviously, growing up, I remember there was a big talk about bringing a mall, and it was so exciting because it offered an entertainment option for so many different age groups within our city. That obviously didn't come to fruition, but the city center is something I keep hearing up. But here's the thing. The residents of District 1, we can develop the city center and we can make it what I think it has the potential to be, which will offer a diverse option of entertainment for people of all ages that call our city home and that visit our city. But that's all fine and well, but it doesn't matter if the people in District 1 can't get there because, like I said before, our infrastructure is taxed, our roads are so littered with congestion and gridlock that they're looking at an extended amount of time. I talked to one individual about a month ago who said they don't even want to leave their house to enjoy some of these entertainment options that are already here, because they know by the time they get there, they're going to be so frustrated with the traffic that's going on, they're just going to turn right back around. I think the development of the city center is great. I think we need to make sure that we're providing recreational opportunities for kids. I would love to see, I played club ball myself. I would love to see us take really advantage of the opportunities of club teams coming into our city. I would love to have an opportunity where I can go with my grandparents and we can enjoy a unique shop down at the city center. But for first and foremost, we have to address what's going on. And the people of District 1 are tired of being neglected. And I think that's why we need to make sure that we're providing the infrastructure and not sacrificing the quality of life of the current residents for the sake of development. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lou, last to answer this question, areas of the city for specific developments and how would you address them?
Thank you. In District 1, we're building a whole lot of homes, but we don't have options for businesses to go in. There is a new Fry's marketplace going in, but with the rate of development in that area, we need more. And so we need to attract some businesses up in District 1. Roadways are huge in District 1. We've got to address those and address particularly the east-west traffic flow, as well as 163rd Avenue, and as other areas develop, other roadways to connect up with Grand and the 303. We have a lot of development going on in plan for the Civic Center. A variety of things are going in at that location. We've got 700,000 square feet of new retail and entertainment areas going in around Waddell and the 303. That's currently under construction, but I think we need to have some more up in District 1 as well.
Thank you. Nick, we are going to go to you first for our next question. So it's possible that if you're elected, that during your term, the city could face recessionary times. So kind of a national topic here. How would you help the city of Surprise navigate a possible recession?
That's a great question. And I think the very first thing is we need to make sure we're not diminishing our service delivery. Already with the rapid influx of growth, we're seeing that the development and the growth is outpacing our city's ability to deliver those critical services. In a time of an economic hardship, we need to make sure that our residents still have access to the critical services they rely on. While at the same time, you know, I'm not looking to do this job to elevate a political career or to get an extra set of income. I'm doing this to serve the community. And so if we're asking for all of the residents in our community to sacrifice, if we're asking for levels of city government to sacrifice some things during this time, I think the city council should sacrifice things as well. And the first thing is to give up my pay to see if we can hopefully offset. Now that's a minute thing, but it's called leadership by example. In the fire service, we have a saying that you treat everybody like they're a member of your own family. And when we're talking about cuts or talking about dealing with those hardships, I can't help but think about my grandparents who are on a fixed income and are retired, and any diminishment of services that they rely on is going to take a big hit to them. Or I think of the families that I met when people answer the door and they have a bunch of little children running around, and with all the stuff going on, they're already taxed. What is that going to do to them? And so I think we work with the members of the community, we communicate what's going on. I'm not shy about facing challenges head on. I'm not going to kick the can down the road, but I'm going to work with, we have an incredible set of talented people that work for the city of Surprise. I have a history and a service record of taking on complex challenges, and that's how I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to do it on the backs of the residents and diminishing services. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou, same question. How would you help the city of Surprise navigate a potential recession?
Thank you, Chris. I agree that the fundamental services that are provided to the city, that being the public safety or suite of services, need to be maintained at the base level. We have a whole list of capital improvement projects that we are wanting to develop for the city. And if we face a recession, then we may have to scale back on doing some of those projects until recovery occurs. I don't want to see any of those capital improvement projects go by the wayside, but we do have to prioritize them and scale back if need be. I think the city did a pretty good job of that in the 2007-2008 area when we had an economic downturn. And now it's even more critical that we prioritize our expenditures and make sure that we fund the things that we need to fund, with the other aspects of the capital equipment plan maybe delayed or cut until improvements can come in the economy.
Thank you, Lou.
Mhm.
And Ray, last response on this question: how would you help the city navigate a potential recession?
All right, thank you. As far as a recession coming, I think surprise, we're going to be in pretty good shape. I met with a contractor a few months ago, and he said that the valley right now is 20,000 housing units behind what it needs to fill the need in the Phoenix metro area. And so there's going to be continuous growth coming. We have the semiconductor facility happening out I-17 and 303. So that's bringing a ton of money into the region. So that's going to help us as well. But if we do run into an issue here, and surprise, we do have a rainy day fund. And so of course, we'll be using some of that. But we got to make sure that our fire and police are properly staffed, properly trained, properly equipped to meet the needs of the community. What we can do is freeze some hiring, scale back on certain projects, but of course, prioritize funding. And as a business owner, we run into those issues every so often where, market shift, things shift, the market changes, where one thing works for a while, something else doesn't. So you have to find the area that's working, and that way you can capitalize on where you're at. So it's just a piece of reprioritizing funding and make sure you stay on top of it. I know back when COVID first hit, the city did a good job of scaling back some cost and set some things aside, and we ended up not having as a negative impact as we thought we were. So we ended up making it through the COVID a couple of years ago pretty good. So I think we're in good shape because of the rainy day fund. But the key to that is, of course, prioritizing your funding.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, we are going to go to Lou to kick off the next question. So during the COVID pandemic, the city of Surprise took a number of actions, some of which were dictated by state or federal governments in order to respond to the pandemic. What lessons did you learn from the city's response? And what, if anything, would you do different in a future crisis?
Well, if it's mandated by state and county, in this case, health or other authorities, the city will have to follow those requirements and recommendations. If it's a suggestion or a guidance issue, then we need to look at our local area and see what is appropriate to do for us and for our citizens. Just because it's mandated at a bigger level or at a higher level, they may not know of a particular requirement that we have in this city or a particular need. So particularly with our retirement communities that are in Sun City Grand and Sun City West, et cetera, those folks may need to have different requirements in those kinds of situations. So I would be much in favor of looking at those requirements from the state or the county in terms of the local needs and the local population, and taking appropriate action based on what's needed here in the city.
Thank you, Lou. Ray, same question. What lessons did you learn from the city's response to the pandemic, and what, if anything, would you do different during a future crisis?
Well, I think the city did a good job of responding, first of all, for business owners. Obviously, one of the biggest scares is local business owners having, impacted by the pandemic. And one thing the city did well was get a list out of the businesses and get signs out and help local businesses advertise and get set up while they were going through COVID. So I think the city did a great job in that aspect. Of course, the city would have to follow any federal, state guidelines that are set up. But other than that, I think the citizens and the business owners can make decisions for themselves. I'm more of a small government type of thought person. And I think people should be able to make the decisions for their own families, for their own businesses as to how to handle certain situations like what happened with COVID. If you feel that you need to stay home to stay safe, I cheer you, stay home and stay safe. If you feel comfortable going out and being in a community, feel comfortable being out in the community. I think government should, I think government should not be involved with, restricting people's individual freedoms. And so that's where I would sit if that was to happen again.
Thank you, Ray. And Nick, final response, lessons you learned from the city's response to the COVID pandemic and anything you may do different in a future crisis.
Thank you. Look, as a firefighter paramedic, and my wife's a nurse at Children's Hospital in the Valley, we unfortunately weren't able to stay home. We had to serve during those very difficult and challenging times, and I know it affected everybody in different ways. There were times where, because we were running on COVID patients, I was unable to see my grandparents or other members of my family. I know that a lot of members of this small business community suffered just as much as I did, in different ways, but still we all took a toll with the pandemic. And how I would approach that is, one, we need to form an open line of communication with small business owners and with the residents, just like I did with our last COVID pandemic. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna show up to work and I'm gonna serve the community. And so what that means is, one, open lines of communication, making sure that our residents, one, know what's going on, but also make sure that they have an opportunity to talk to their elected officials and can share their concerns and also their needs and what needs to be done. Connecting them with those critical resources is going to be so important. I like making sure that we are elevating the small business community, and because that's what Surprise is, right? We are a community that helps each other out. And in these types of crises, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to band together. We're going to help those small businesses out, maybe not shopping at a chain, but going and supporting them. My grandparents, it's a little bit more difficult for them to go to the store during something like that. So making sure that we rally around some of those members of the immune compromised population and making sure that they have resources that they need because they're not able to leave their home. And again, making sure that businesses feel empowered to make those decisions, but also understanding that we have a responsibility to keep each other safe. And I think that, when I pass a business that's closed down because of this thing, it breaks my heart. It really does. I think of the families. I think of the people with those businesses. And so ultimately what I'm going to do is exactly what I did this last time COVID hit, is I'm going to step up. I'm going to be there for my community, and I'm going to make sure I serve them to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. All right. And this will be our final question before we move to closing statements. Ray, we're going to come to you first on this. The Chamber of Commerce regularly publish and outline our priorities and our goals. If elected to City Council, do you feel you'll be able to support the mission of the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce?
Oh, sorry, I had to click my mute. Support the mission of the Chamber of Commerce. Of course, myself, I said earlier, I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce since 2002. That was shortly after I opened my business, my agency in Surprise. I have volunteered in the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce, given my own personal time, talent, and treasure to help the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce. I was the chairperson for the Government Affairs Committee of the Chamber, and I served on that committee for 6+ years. And so, yes, I support that. I support what the Chamber is doing. What I would like to see the Chamber do more is, bring back mixers and things of that nature to help support local businesses in networking and those kind of things. But as a City Council member, I will definitely help the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce and help them with their mission to make a strong business environment in the city of Surprise. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Nick, same question. If elected, will you support the mission of the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce?
So I think one of the most important things that the Surprise Chamber does is it elevates the voices of the small business owners in our community, which is so critical. Uh, Again, I keep mentioning it, but that's what my campaign's about. It's about the people in this community. And so I'm just bringing you what I've heard at their doors and inside their living rooms is people are frustrated because they don't feel like they have a voice. And organizations like the Chamber that helps elevate those voices is so important. So I will support your continuous mission to represent and advocate for our small business community because they play such a vital role in our local economy. Yes, I want us to be a driving economic force for the West Valley, but it's also important to note that the small business community plays such a critical role in that. And so I love that you guys advocate and make sure that their voices are heard. I would love to continue to work with the Chamber to make sure that I can understand not only the problems that are facing small business owners in our community directly from them, but also look at ways we can partner together to make it better. There's always ways to make things better. And in the fire department, there's me and 3 other people, and we all have to work together. We have different perspectives, but our goal is the same as we want to help people make a difference. And that's exactly my approach as city council, working with these different organizations, different community leaders, and just my neighbors to work together towards a common goal of making a better Surprise for everybody. So yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Nick. And Lou, final response.
Yes, I will absolutely support the Chamber of Commerce. So when I had a small business previously, I was a member of the Chamber and very active in that Chamber. I believe in the Chamber being able to provide those voices to the small business and the large businesses that are around. We've got some large businesses coming into Surprise that should be part of the Chamber as well. Businesses are vital to the community and provide an economic benefit. And I think that the Chamber is a vital role in that regard.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, we're going to move to closing statements. Again, this is your time as a candidate to highlight anything that you wish to highlight. You'll each have 2 minutes. Nick, we are going to go ahead and give you the first opportunity for a closing statement.
All right. Well, thank you again to the Chamber for giving us this opportunity to share our vision for Surprise and talk directly to the residents. It's so important that we do that. Look, our city is at a crossroads. Our infrastructure is stressed beyond measure. Our streets are gridlocked with congestion and terrible accidents. We've all seen them. And development is outpacing our city's ability to provide those critical services that our residents rely on. The time for stagnant leadership is over. We need proactive policies, not reactive ones. We shouldn't be going to a forum and hearing the same answers that we heard 4 years ago. I'm ready to bring that fresh new perspective that the council desperately needs. I'm ready to use my problem-solving abilities as a firefighter paramedic and bring them straight to the council. When I'm on a fire truck, I don't run away from those problems. I run towards them. I take them on head on in service to not only the community, but also to the residents that rely on me. And I'm gonna do the same thing as your city councilman. And at any given day, I'm willing to risk my life to make a difference for a complete stranger. So just imagine what I'm gonna be willing to do for you, my community members, as a member of the city council. Because let's be honest, this campaign isn't about me. It is about you. It is about your frustration on of stagnant leadership. And I will never forget that the most important conversations that I have, they're not the ones that are up on the dais at City Hall. It's the one in your doorstep and the ones in your living room. I'm going to fight hard to be your representative. I'm ready to serve you. And I would love to have the opportunity to have your vote come August. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. Ray, 2 minutes for closing.
All right. Again, thank you, Chamber, for putting this on. You know, I think the other candidates are good guys. I think they would serve well, but I think there's 3 things that separates me from the other candidates. Number 1 is local leadership. And I said proven leadership. I've served in the community of Surprise on the Parks and Rec Committee, on the Government Affairs Committee with the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce. I've done big events, National Day of Prayer, Mayor's Breakfast with the Pastor. So I have the leadership, proven leadership, to lead with our issues. Second thing is relationships. Like I've said before, I have relationships with our state elected officials, with our federal elected officials, and those relationships are going to help when it's come time to make those phone calls to bring the funding for our roads and infrastructure into our community. and financial support. My campaign is supported by friends, family, small business owners, community leaders, kids I've coached, veterans, pastors, and not any special interest groups. And how will that help our District 1 on our #1 priority in roads? Leadership to drive the conversation on roads, relationships to make the phone calls so that we can get the funding to get those projects into our city. And because I'm not endorsed or not funded by special interests, it gives me the freedom to ask those tough questions when developers asking or proposing those new developments. Again, I want to thank you, Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce, for this opportunity, and I'm asking for your vote on August 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. And Lou, our final closing statement, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, the Chamber, for hosting this event. I think it's been very good. I wanted to kind of go over my background again. As an engineer, I've solved many problems, and you don't solve a problem in engineering by yourself. It requires team effort of multiple disciplines in order to bring a product to market and be successful at that. And I've done that over and over and over again. And I bring those same skill sets to the council position to bring people together to reach a viable conclusion or a result to that. We have significant infrastructure needs in this district in particular. It's growing like wildfire. And one of my primary focuses will be on making sure that the infrastructure, the roadways, the water, the wastewater, stormwater, et cetera, including parks and recreation and open space, are part of the plan and be able to be put into place when that development comes into production or into completion. I've also been an Air Force veteran in law enforcement. I strongly support the public safety posture, recognize how important that is, and we'll bring that same focus to the city council. I'm self-funding my campaign. I do have some contributors, but it's not any special interests. They're all small contributors. And therefore, I'm not going to be beholden to anyone in particular if I am on the council, and we'll be able to have an independent voice as we try to go through and approve projects and approve things that we need to have on the council. So thank you very much again. Appreciate your forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. So that'll conclude our panelist section of the forum. I want to remind everyone that's watching live or watching the recording, the election is August 2nd. If you vote by early ballot and you receive a ballot by mail, you'll receive it as early as the first week of July. So we encourage everyone to vote in the District 1 for City of Surprise. On behalf of the Chamber, encouraging you to consider the mission of the Chamber as we do work as a nonprofit charity to further the interest of the City of Surprise, our small businesses and our residents. And then that, I will turn it over to Raul.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for volunteering your time today. It's greatly appreciated. Special shout out to all the candidates as well. Thank you for joining our candidate forum and participating in this, I think, was some really healthy and some dynamic conversation. For those listeners that are out there, the Chamber is also doing some District 29 candidate forums for both the State Senate and the State House. You can go to our calendar of events on our website to get more details about those. And also, I wanted to remind everyone that the discussion and the dialogue is not over yet. This entire forum will be broadcast live and posted on Facebook, and we encourage you to post additional comments and share the video with your friend. So with that, again, thank you everybody for attending, and remember to go out and vote, and we'll see you at the next forum. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care.